As we approach the end of the text, things seem to be falling apart somewhat. I felt obliged to miss out a chunk of verses because it was as if a page or two from another text had been slipped in there, either by accident or not. And the translator makes a comment about the subjects being referred to being less congruous with those of the main text. And we recently had a couple of verses pertaining to Samkhya philosophy, which seem to be contrasted in the last verse with the Alaya, which is pure. It's the seat of all sentient beings. Verse 832, it said, "As quicksilver is pure and not soiled by dirt, so is the Alaya pure, being the seat of all sentient beings." And the Alaya is also called the store consciousness. It seems to have all these seeds in it. And I think these seeds could be understood here as the dirt, because these are the seeds which encourage consciousness to go out of itself. It never really goes out of itself, but it creates this dream space and then gets lost in it. So the dream space itself is also consciousness, but consciousness forgets itself in this dream space. So as enlightenment practitioners, we're allowing consciousness to remember its true nature once again by collapsing the dream space, awakening from it. But it's difficult, and the next verse, although it seems rather random, points out some of the difficulties. Verse 833, "The onion-odour of onion, the womb of a pregnant woman, the saltiness of salt, etc. Does not each evolve like the seed?" As part of this process whereby consciousness projects out into itself, we describe this as discernment. Certain features get discerned, and then notions of a discerner arise, and a relationship between what is discerned and who is doing the discerning. And this is the ego personality. Consciousness gets trapped in this feedback mechanism known as the ego personality. And what this verse is doing is showing how it gets led into this. The onion odour of onion. So the onion odour of an onion isn't just simply an odour. It has consequences. It can make the eyes stream. And we can anticipate, as we're cutting the onion, the nice meal that it's going to be part of. So we get caught up in it. It isn't simply that we've discerned onion odour. There's an emotional involvement here. We get caught up in it. This is the seed. The seed's the initial discernment, but we get hooked into it, like the womb of a pregnant woman. The womb of a pregnant woman. Well, that's a big one, isn't it? Imagine the parents and their newborn child. Woof, their life changes. Perhaps previously, assuming they didn't have children already, they were focused on each other. This child comes along. That child is now the focus. It's a big shift in emotional life. It's a big involvement. There's no questioning it. You are sucked into this. This is life. Your duty is now prescribed for you. What you get on with is laid out for you. It could take a whole chunk of your life. That's the way it is. So it isn't simply discerning a pregnant woman. There are consequences. This is just the seed for a whole chain of life events that we get sucked into. And the third example is the saltiness of salt. Again, we can discern salt, we can discern its saltiness and its flavour enhancing qualities, or its preservative qualities, or perhaps it's got other qualities or uses which we can use it for. So it's not simply discerning salt, it's discerning its function and our need for that function. We've got an emotional connection with it. I don't know if it was ever the case in India, but you might know that our word salary, in the English word salary, comes from the Latin word sal, which is salt, because Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt. And if you imagine how we relate to being paid and all the emotions that go with that, the feeling of having something in the bank, having some money, that's got consequences. It's quite important. So I don't know if that was ever the case in India, that they used salt as currency, but if it was the case, then it might give some sort of theme to this. The first one is food, the next is family, and the third is supporting that family. It's possible I'm reading too much into that. There's an etc there. So the point is, we don't just discern things, we get emotionally caught up in things. And this is what keeps us in ignorance. It's the dirt that obscures the purity of the Alaya. And it's something therefore that we can watch out for. How we get entangled in things. As I record this, there are dreadful images appearing on the daily news bulletins featuring wounded children in Gaza, and Israel is being held to account for this. There are much worse things going on in the world, especially when you consider what Muslims are doing to Muslims in Syria and in Iraq. There's some dreadful suffering going on, but for some reason the world's media, at least the Western media, is focusing on the results of Israeli actions in Gaza. It's a very emotive thing. And I can't help but strive to try and get some balance. And almost universally on my Facebook pages, we're getting examples. I'm getting examples of Israeli atrocities. And it seems to me to be a very unbalanced perspective. And yet, I'm rather wary of trying to balance it. But the point here is, it does seem to inflame passions. So much so that I almost didn't bother recording this video, because I could hear my phone buzzing, indicating something's been posted on my Facebook feed. I did make some comment, probably a mistake, to yet another instance of Israeli brutality. It does seem to be very difficult to get some balance in this situation. But I had to make the effort to withdraw my inclinations here to look at what the Facebook reply was. And I also wonder why I'm getting so involved in it. I don't like to see lack of balance, I guess, especially amongst people that I like and whom I know are intelligent. But perhaps I'm expecting too much. As an enlightenment practitioner, I need to observe my sensibilities here. I need to observe the way my thoughts are going. I've been trying to do some formal meditations recently. I might say more about that another time. Just short sitting meditations. But when I tried this yesterday, it went in a flash. It was just 20 minutes, but it went within a few minutes because I was caught up in thinking about this conflict and people's response to it. So it's a very intense, impassioned situation, and my mind doesn't want to let go of it. But I have to ask myself, why not? And even if the reasons are for the best, I still need to let go of it, which is what I did when I came to sit down and do this video. So, perhaps along with this list of the onion-odour of onion, the womb of a pregnant woman, the saltiness of salt, I could include the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Does not each evolve like the seed?